Welcome to the DoBrink podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of CBAM. Join us as we dive into the latest strategies and insights to help your business stay ahead. Let's get started. Let's get started.
Welcome at the third episode of the DoBrink podcast. My name is Marcel Duits. I'm the managing director of DoBrink. I'm here together with the CTO of DoBrink. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Amalia Pavaluca from Romania. We're going to talk about CBAM, but we also will talk a lot about F-gases. To be honest, before I met her, I heard about F-gases, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was. What is interesting is that there are a lot of similarities between F-gases and CBAM. The regulation started years ago, and we can see that quite some of those regulations have been improved by the European Union and are now applied in CBAM. Amalia, welcome.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Would you mind to quickly introduce yourself?
So, as you said, I'm Amalia Pavaluca. I come from Romania. I'm the president of Romanian Association of F-gas companies and the CEO of MAG Management Invest. And as you said, our main field is in F-gases since 6 years ago, and now we are starting off the CBAM as well. So it's a pleasure to be in here with you.
Nice. And what was the first time that you actually heard about CBAM?
We heard about the CBAM like 2 years ago because in our country, the national authority, they focus a lot to inform us. So basically, if you've been doing an import in the last 2 years, it doesn't matter what type of the import. We all receiving like every month information about the CBAM.
Wow. And we actually can see that impact happening because we see a significant amount of interest in our platform from Romania. And that is because I think some message has been sent out a few months ago, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And since then, like every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we keep receiving them.
Wow. And who did it? How did it happen? Or
as you know, in Romania, I do not know about the other countries, but in Romania, the national authority who is taking in charge is the custom authority and the finance ministry. So they are very important for us. If we're receiving an email from the ministry, definitely we pay attention to it.
That's called ANAF, isn't it, in Romania?
Yes, and as well, but the finance ministry is having a CBAM unit specially dedicated for this.
And what happened then? They sent an email and what
and
was in
sending an email explaining very well and very easy how if you are a CBAM, you have to be a CBAM declarant, and they explain you exactly the steps, how you do the report, and everything you can do. I mean, it's.
And this is perhaps something that really surprised me because there is a lot of imports going through Romania.
Yes.
And like especially from Turkey.
And from China as well.
Perhaps, tell me more about that.
And as you know now, Romanian is in Schengen. So basically, it's a very important point. So all the goods are coming from China, Turkey through Romania. And after they going on transit in Europe. So I think that's why maybe the authorities, they are so involved into this, which is very good.
Yeah.
Comparing with the F-gas, we're having like 10 years the European legislation. And I can tell that it's been improving in Romania since the last 3 years. But
yeah, can you for those who don't know what F-gases are, would you mind to describe what are they, where are they in, and also what are the similarities you see with respect to reporting the F-gases and CBAM?
Okay, so we're having the portal, the European Commission portal, which is named the F-gas. In comparing with the CBAM, is the same portal. And we're having the European legislation and also the national legislation. And it's referring to importers of the gas in bulk. And we're talking about the gas, we're talking here about the refrigerants. And also it's referring to the importers of the equipment that contains the gases.
Do you know what F-gases are actually?
Yeah, so maybe some of you remember Freon. This is poking holes in the ozone layer, and Freon is one of the gases that is falls under F-gases. There's different types. It depends on their use case. Some are in, commercial air conditioning units. They are also in your residential, in your home fridge,
exactly.
In cars. I
cars,
remember.
Exactly.
So they're basically liquids or pressurized gas that cool down equipment, but they are not that great for the environment. So the European government has set quotas how much of this stuff can actually be imported on I believe it's on a yearly basis.
Yes.
And every year the quota is...
We are now in the phase down of the quota. So basically we have 2013 until we should give up of those gases and we move on the eco gases.
That's interesting. And you have managed the F-gases already for many years. Then you saw some time ago CBAM being introduced and you were like,
Yeah, it's nothing new. Okay, there are news as well, but the mechanism is basically the same.
Yeah. And what are the is the portal the same or?
So we are working on the European Commission portal, which you have to be registered as an importer. The quota allocation is made by the portal. The transaction of the quota are made into the portal. And the annual reports are made also through the portal.
A lot of companies say that CBAM is kind of complex because of the communication template. But when I spoke with you, you actually said but I actually see that the European Union really learned from F-gases and improved the process big time.
So an importer should fill down and subscribe, and then he's gonna have a valid license. But I see that in the CBAM, the national authority is the one that is accepting and is doing like a double check.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, what I'm seeing is not going to be so easy to be a CBAM declarant.
Yeah, and in the F-gases industry, you have seen that it is not a bad idea to regulate this, right?
Yes.
A similar question in this regard, because if I want to import a fridge and I have a quota for F-gases,
yes.
Let's say that this is in some way comparable, right? I'm bringing in some iron or some steel. How does that work for F-gases if I don't have the quota?
You have to buy it.
So
basically, it's the same mechanism. You cannot import your goods; is not custom released until you don't have the proper quota for it. But what is the difference is that at the moment of the custom release, in order to import to the F-gases, you have to own that quota. It's not like you're going to buy it later.
I get that, yeah.
Okay.
But and one thing that I should mention, right? The certificates for CBAM, it seems right now that you will buy them after the import has been done.
Exactly.
And now there's this conversation about 80% every quarter. You have to have certificates for 80% of your imports. So everyone that's thinking that they can just wait till the very last day of the reporting period once we go to a yearly reporting standard, will do everything at once. That's not necessarily possible because you have to match every quarter. But for F-gases, it is a little bit different, right?
Yes, you have to have quota in order to have your goods released for free circulation.
And if I don't have the quota as a company who wants to bring that in, what can I do then currently?
Into the F-gas?
Yeah, for F-gas.
You have to find a trader and to buy it. Because basically the European Commission allocated until now was allocated, the quota was free allocation, but only for the bulk importers of the gas. And the importers of the equipments can buy the quota from the importers of the bulk gas. And the transfer is made through the portal to the F-gas.
Yeah.
The difference into the CBAM certificates are that we're not going to be any traders, and we're going to buy directly from the European Commission.
Yeah, and the quotas, they're released only once a year, but the certificates probably are going to be at least, they say that they're speaking about weekly averages of the ETS price, so probably we're going to be able to buy that on a weekly basis at least. And then every quarter they will reevaluate how much you can still buy because of what you've actually imported, I guess. Yeah.
If I'm correct, even with F-gases, it's now like blocked for 3 years. So only the companies who now are in the system can have the
starting
quotas, right?
with this year, the ones that have been applying for the quota, they will receive it for the next year. So if a company wants right now, today, to apply for the quota, it should be starting with 2028.
Yeah,
so
most
basically
likely,
they lose 3 years.
Yeah, but most likely the reason is because eventually we will go to a new kind of gas, which will replace the F-gas. And they
we
don't
are
want
in a phase down.
Yeah, they don't want the people to actually increase the amount of free allocation.
But to some degree, we might say that, if, for example, the bulk importers for F-gas who get the free allocation, we might compare that, for example, with raw material in CBAM versus, let's say, finished products.
Yes.
And perhaps we might still see some of that trading happening.
Yeah.
This is speculation upon this beyond this point. But yeah.
So for me, it's interesting to see a CBAM market where a lot of consultants are all just starters, right? 95% of the companies we are in contact with didn't consult CBAM 2 years ago, while you have been consulting on gases already for many years. What I really like is that you have expertise in Romania, but you also exactly know what to do in Turkey, because many clients of you are based in Turkey,
and
as well in China, because a lot of companies are producing in China, manufacturing something extra in Turkey, and then eventually it's imported into the EU. So I think it's good to mention that if you as a company are in contact and importing from those two countries, that you're actually the right person to contact. And one of the many insights you gave us today, because we spent all day together, was fractional certificates. And I actually never heard about that.
Yeah, because the certificates is not applying for fractionally certificates. For example, if you need to make an import and we calculate that the import...
Talking F-gas now, right?
Yes, on the F-gas. It's equivalent, like, let's say, 10.3. So you have to buy 11 tons of CO2.
Yeah. So what we see happening compared with half a year ago is that we don't always interpret CBAM in the right way. I mean, not just us, but the whole CBAM community, right? If we talk about the benchmark, which is different than we thought.
We obviously have the CBAM benchmark that nobody really thought about. Then there is the fact that the CBAM factor is involved in the price calculation, which actually increases the difference between your specific embedded emissions and, let's call that a free allowance or whatever you can subtract. Right, so those are already two things. ETS price we knew, but yeah.
And then imagine that with 10.1 ton, you actually need to give 11 on certificates. That's making another 10% difference.
That's definitely something that's going to add up.
Not saying it's going to happen, but we have to realize that what we know today is sometimes not what's going to be the truth tomorrow.
It depends on who the audience is, because if you're dealing with a very large importer that does hundreds of thousands of tons of material, 0.1 or 0.9, whatever the rounding might be, that's not going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah,
but our small-time importers that do a few containers a year, suddenly they may end up, we saw prices upwards of €250 per ton of CO2 for the price of the certificates by 2034. slowly going there, it's $200 is a lot.
Yeah. Percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, yeah. In absolute terms, it's okay, but relatively speaking, like that's other extra cost.
Yeah. So we've seen you have an amazing team. You're consulting on F-gases, on CBAM, etc. Are there any synergies there?
So what I want you to understand that is our biggest advantage is that we starting, then we came in from practice, and then we learn the theory. It's not like learning the theory and then going to practice.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it's coming very intuitive and very easy for us to understand the client problem, especially when he's doing those imports. It's for us, if I'm getting a call and a client just start telling the issue, I understand very fast where is the problem.
Yeah.
It's either by the side of the custom authority or from the F-gas portal. So we have to match, and we finding solution very fast for him.
That's why you work with quite big clients. I've heard some names which are very impressive.
Yes.
And I think that's important to mention, that you can deal with smaller companies, but you can easily work with the multinationals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in this field, at least in Romania, we are the only ones that we are recognized, and we offering this consultancy.
And this is also something that was really interesting, because you showed us the F-gas portal yesterday. Within the F-gas portal, there is actually a section dedicated to all the auditors, and you can quickly find them. And because of your name starting with an A, you're at the very top.
We are auditors, but just for the national. We are not applying in all the Europe countries, just national.
But I found it very interesting to see that they have auditors in that portal as well. Are we going to see that with CBAM?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm also interested to know the rules and who can apply to be an auditor to the CBAMs.
Yeah. The future will tell. And JJ, the UK. Can you share something about the UK CBAM? Because it's going to start there too.
Yeah, we heard quite some interesting update that was published about UK CBAM. Of course, we know that roughly they are going to follow whatever has already been done in European Union. But the big difference is that they're not going to have a transitional period. So right now, there is this period where everybody's kind of just figuring out how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It really seems that in the UK, our transitional period was basically enough for the UK legislation to be perfected and take all the learnings from what we basically didn't really got sorted from the start. And it looks like they're going to start with paying. So the moment that CBAM is introduced, it's 2027, immediately they will have to start paying. And funnily enough, there is also F-gas in the UK. Perhaps you can at least give us a little bit of information about how that works there.
The difference between the portal, the European Commission portal F-gas, which everything is made through, all the work is made through a portal. In the UK, everything is made manually.
Really?
Yes. So I think they have a big team over there, because we're receiving mails. So, for example, if you want to transfer a quota, you have to send an email and you get an email back. They don't have their own portal.
Seriously?
Yes, so everything is manually.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because you can also transfer your allowances then to other countries, if I understand correctly. Okay.
So you can even transfer it between UK and Europe?
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm very curious to see what kind of overlap we're going to see on UK and European CBAM, and if there's going to be some sort of certificate exchange, which to a certain degree is similar.
In general, it's going to be interesting what the world's going to do, because you can choose to not participate, but if you don't have an ETS system, it's going to be for your internal market much harder, because that means that the importer is not able to subtract the emissions which you already paid in your own country.
Yeah, and we see that, right? We had some consultants and projects, and in this case it was Canadian, and they're like, well, we have quite a strong ETS system here, so the carbon price is already paid. We don't really care so much about CBAM. And then we came back to them as like, well, wait a second. Actually, the fact that you have a strong ETS system makes it even more important that you correctly calculate the emissions, because that is the basis of everything, including the ETS price you pay back home. And on top of that, you can subtract that, or the European importer can subtract that to create that, let's say, level playing field that they're really trying to achieve with CBAM.
Yeah. So Amalia, with respect to the F-gases, what's the biggest issue you see happening at the moment?
Unfortunately, there are lots of companies that don't have any clue about the F-gases. They want to import equipment, heat pumps or chillers, for example. They bring them from China, and then when they want to do the custom, they realize they don't have a license in order to do that, and they don't have a valid quota. In order to have a valid quota, first of all, you have to have a license. And this is taking times. It's taking like at least 10 days. You have to request it through the portal, to the F-gas portal, and then the European Commission accepting you. Once you have the license, you can search from the traders. So you have to buy the quotas in order to do the import. So this means lots of time. This means that the goods are deposited and you're paying extra taxes for that. So I'm seeing this like every week. I get calls that like how I'm going to solve this.
Yeah.
So it's taking time.
And for you, it's an advantage that you have your organization already in place. That's why it's for you much easier to scale up to CBAM than it is for starting consultants, I guess.
Or if they don't want, if they know the process that you have to have a license and quotas, and this once you have, what is important to know that once you are into the F-gas and your account is valid, you have the obligation to report, even you do an import or not, you have the obligation to do the report. Okay, so most of the companies, they prefer to work with an external company that already has a license to do the imports for them and then to re-invoice the goods. I don't know how it's going to be to the CBAM, for example. If a company is not accepted as a declarant of CBAM, because from what I'm seeing, the condition to be accepted as a declarant are very tough. So it's not very easy for everyone to do that.
And then here, at least in Czech Republic, we see also it's just proves to be so difficult to actually get access to the transitional registry. And I don't know how that the access is arranged for you guys, but we actually really have a lot of customers that come to us and they're like, well, we've contacted the customs authority and we've waited for 3-4 months. We still haven't really heard back.
Yeah, because
we're a software company, so we don't do that. So we give those clients, of course, to the consultants working with us. Yeah. So if your consultant is still looking for clients, come to us.
There's quite a lot of people that are looking for your help.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I wanted to ask, what will happen if an importer is not accepted into CBAM to be a CBAM declarant? But he has to do the imports.
I think in that case they will have to use someone else to do the import for them.
So it's going to be basically the same that is happening with the F-gases.
Probably.
Yeah.
The certificates may not be tradable, but you could still pay someone else to do the import for you. And I guess this is what the consequence would be.
I actually want to make then a bridge to China, because what we've seen in the past month is that, I as you know, before I had a significant company in women underwear, adhesive bras, and I've been importing a lot into the European Union. And I always noticed that the factories were not always the ones exporting, because many factories don't have a license to be allowed to export. And they use trading companies for that. That's why it quite often happens that on your commercial documents is not the name of the company where you're buying from, and then you have to fix that. Well, when we are talking to Chinese factories, which we're helping to onboard in our system, they see operators as something totally different than the European Union sees an operator. Because for the European Union, an operator is someone actually almost like in a factory on a desk, providing the details of that installation. Well, almost all the Chinese companies we're talking with, they say, no, the trading company, so the one with the license, is according to them the operator. The guy in the factory doesn't even speak English, so he cannot even be your operator. So the person filing that data is actually not always the one who on the paper should be filing the data. And that is a discrepancy which half a year ago we actually had no clue of.
No.
Amalia, thank you for being here. It's really great that we had you in our podcast. Do you have some closing words maybe?
Well, all I could tell you that you should follow us on the social media.
Yes, that's good. I ask, your website is cbam.ro, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's good to mention. Anything?
Yeah, no closing remarks for me. Thank you very much for watching on my behalf.
And have a great day.
We explore the ins and outs of CBAM. Join us as we dive into the latest strategies and insights to help your business stay ahead. Let's get started.